how do the ancient yogis detach from their body and travel through various dimensions and through various realms? What is telepathy and how are we able to communicate with someone without physically being there and without the support of any instrument? And how astral projection and all these metaphysical miraculous experiences take place? What is the logic behind it and how can we understand this? These are some of the questions and comments that we get on the videos. So this will be a very deep exploration of how all of this happens, and we will be going through it through the Vedantic perspective, of course, but we will also look at the autobiography of a yogi, which is a very, very powerful book where a lot of such instances are documented. And also, Swamiji speaks of the scientific phenomenon behind it, the science behind it in his own words. So we will go through this and we will understand the metaphysical reality which is beyond and behind this physical reality. What if I told you that the limits you think you have, the stress, fear, confusion, scarcity, etc., exist only because you are trapped inside a body you have never actually questioned? What if your consciousness could step out, just like the ancient yogis who traveled across different dimensions and even planets consciously? So, all of this is not theory, but it has been seen and documented in so many scriptures, in so many ways. And one such powerful book which talks about these metaphysical concepts is the autobiography of a yogi. So, before we get into this diagram and I explain to you the Vedantic perspective, we will look at the autobiography of a yogi and I will read a few paragraphs there. In chapter 26, that is the science of Kriya Yoga, Swamiji says this: Kriya Yoga is not a mystical fluff but a repeatable psychophysical practice. Controlled breathing and internal attention change the circulation and energy in the spine and brain. By slowing the outward flow of life force and redirecting it inward along the spinal centers, the practitioner gradually disentangles awareness from the senses and the body, opening the doorway to out-of-body awareness and higher inner planes. Now, this is a very, very important concept from the book, which is very, very relevant for us to understand how reality actually works. In a previous video, we talked about the law of identification, which we can understand through the lens of Vedanta. And this law states you become what you identify yourself with, right? If you believe and assume to be something, and if that assumption and that belief is strong enough, at least it becomes true in your personal experience. So, with this law, let's understand how reality works. Each and every one of us, we think that we are this one person, this one individual. But Vedanta says we have different aspects to who we are. We have different layers to who we are. There is one framework in Vedanta which is called Panchakosha Viveka. That is what we will look at today. So there is first of all the physical body, which is called as the Annamaya Kosha, which you can see. Whatever the form of the body that you can see, let's call it the Annamaya Kosha. And all of this is tied to an identity or ego, right? And it is an assumption. We have assumed to be this individual person tied to this body, mind and ego, and that is why we are experiencing a reality based on our assumption. And the Annamaya Kosha or the physical body is level 1 assumption. After that comes level 2, that is highlighted as P, that is Pranamaya Kosha. Prana is a crucial aspect to who we are. As long as the prana stays active and it is connected with the body, our body stays alive. Prana is a deeper aspect to us, which is the second level. And then comes Manomaya Kosha. This can be looked at as the mind with its thoughts, emotions, feelings, memories and all of that. So, mind is the third layer of identification, which is level 3. After that comes Vijnanamaya Kosha or the intellect. Each and every one of us, deep within ourselves, we have an intellect that can discriminate between the right and wrong, what we want from life, what we do not want from life, and so on. There is a very sharp intellect that each and every one of us have access to, which is level 4. After that, after level 4 comes Anandamaya Kosha, that is the fifth layer, which is non-local in nature. In the sense, it is not present in any particular place like the physical body, but it is non-local. And of course, this might be a little hard to understand, but there is an aspect to us which is not tied to a particular object in space-time. And that is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is called as the bliss sheath. This is what is active during deep sleep. When we go to sleep, after we dream different dreams, when we go to deep sleep or sushupti, this Anandamaya Kosha is active. That is why we experience pure bliss and joy during that deep sleep. As per the deeper wisdom of Advaita Vedanta, we are none of these levels. We are not the level 1, that is the physical body. We are not level 2, that is Pranamaya Kosha or the energy body. We are not the mind or the subtle body. And then we are not the Vijnanamaya Kosha, that is the intellect. And we are not the Anandamaya Kosha also, which is the deeper aspect of who we are. Beyond all of this is Atman, which is the eternal witness consciousness, which is always there within each and every one of us. And this is the fundamental teaching of Vedanta. Whenever there is any level of identification, we experience a reality as though that identification is real. For example, when you wear a set of glasses with red colored lens, you experience a reality where everything appears red. The sky is red, the trees are red, and everything is red. Although in reality, nothing is red, because of your wearing of that lens, you experience reality as though it is red. In the same way, the moment we wear a body and we identify with the body, we experience this physical reality as though we are the body, even though we are not. Body is something that we are wearing, just like the lens that we were wearing in that example. And similarly, the prana, the mind, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellect and the bliss sheath, all these layers are accumulations. These are all something that we are wearing currently, and because of which we are experiencing such reality. Now, this is the primary framework, and finally, Vedanta goes on to say none of these layers are ultimately real. None of these layers or levels are who you actually are. Once you understand that you are that Atman, this eternal witness, you attain absolute freedom from suffering and you attain absolute bliss. That goal is called moksha. That is what each and every one of us must aspire for. That's Vedanta 101. But now let's come to how all these metaphysical phenomenon occur. How these yogis are able to travel to different dimensions by leaving their physical body, how telepathy occurs, how astral projection happens, and so on. To understand that, we need to understand that the physical reality that is tied to the physical body is just one level of reality. The three-dimensional reality that we are familiar with, which obeys the Newtonian physics at some level, where things appear to be in a certain way, is just a very small fragment of the entire reality. So the reality itself is described as Purnam in Vedanta. Purnam means infinite. It is limitless. It is multidimensional. It has infinite dimensions. It has infinite layers and it has infinite depth to it. But based on what we are identified with currently and based on our level of perception, we are able to experience a certain dimension of reality, and that is what we call our reality. So the physical reality that we are experiencing right now is just one section of reality which is currently accessible to us because of our limitations and our identification and our level of perception. We can understand this through a simple example. Now, the entire world that we see all around us looks a certain way for us human beings. I can show this to you and I can say this is white and you understand what white is. I can say this is blue and you can understand what blue is. I can say this is red and you understand what red is. But a dog cannot understand what red is. what blue is, because dogs are not sensitive to colors the way humans are. Similarly, an owl perceives reality in a totally different way. It is more sensitive during the night because of its level of perception and because of its identification. It has certain capabilities that we do not have. During night times, when we are unable to see anything, an owl is able to see clearly. So this tells us that the same reality that we are experiencing can be looked at and can be perceived in different ways through different instruments and through different species. Now, just like this, there are advanced species, there are astral beings, there are different deities, there are so many things in this universe that we can't even imagine or fathom yet. And based on their level of identification and their level of perception, they are open to a different segment of reality and they are experiencing a higher level of reality or a lower level of reality. So, how can we make use of Panchakosha Viveka to understand this? Right? A simple way to understand this is this. As long as we are identified with the body, the physical body, we experience one level of reality, the three-dimensional reality that we are familiar with. Now, through Kriya Yoga, as Swamiji explained in that paragraph, when the body identification is brought to an end, and when we identify with the deeper layers of our being, for example, the prana, the mind, and the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which together we call as the subtle body or Sukshma Sharira. Now, when we are able to consciously disidentify from the body and be as that subtle body, which right now we may not be capable of, but we can be capable of that through certain practices and through certain systems. So, when we can consciously act from the place of that subtle body or Sukshma Sharira, now an entirely new segment of reality opens up to us. The physical forces of gravity and heat cannot influence the subtle body in a way in which it influences the physical body. So right now what has happened is, in reality we are this infinite consciousness or Atman, which we actually are, but we have gone through various levels of identifications from the highest level of Atman to the lowest level, that is the body. But at the same time, we have the capacity to disidentify from the body and to access the deeper dimensions of who we are, that is prana, that is manas, that is intellect, and so on. So the deeper we go and the more conscious that we can be at the deeper levels, the more we can play with reality. All these things that we call astral projection or out of body travel is simply this. It is just the ability to detach from the physical body and act as the subtle body, making use of that power to do certain things which is not possible for the physical body. Now, for the physical body, some things might totally be impossible, but subtle body is a totally different dimension altogether. It does not obey the same laws the physical body does. So that is how the reality actually works. We become what we identify ourselves with. Now we have identified with the physical body, and so we are experiencing this reality. And not just this, we have further identified ourselves with various limiting beliefs, right? Some of us believe that it is very difficult to succeed in life, or we believe that the economy is bad and the job market is bad because of AI and so many things like this. So again, based on those level of identifications with those limiting beliefs, you may be experiencing a reality where the economy is actually bad for you, where getting a job is actually difficult for you, where finding something purposeful and being in abundance is not possible for you. Not because the reality cannot offer that to you. Reality can offer you anything. Like we discussed, reality is infinite. But based on your limiting beliefs, based on your limiting patterns, you are not allowing the reality to show you what it can. Of course, our focus is not about getting entangled with these metaphysical concepts of astral projection and out of body experience and so on. As we go through this process of evolution, if they happen, they happen, but ultimately from the Vedantic perspective, they are irrelevant. Our only focus should be on this, that ultimate level, which is the witness consciousness that we truly are. That is the point of true freedom and fulfillment. But until then, the practical takeaway for you today is this: You are currently experiencing a reality based on your limiting beliefs. Whatever you deeply believe in about your health, about your relationships, about money and your professional life, you are experiencing such reality. Whatever your ideal life is, it is definitely possible, but you are the one who is stopping yourself. Once you conquer yourself, anything is possible. So that is all you need to do. Shri Krishna says in Gita, Bandhuratma Atmanastasya enatmaivatmanajitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. If you conquer yourself, you are your best friend. If you do not conquer yourself, you are your worst enemy. From this point onwards, be conscious of your identifications. What are the beliefs that you are having within your mind? Think about that. Consciously disidentify from that and conquer yourself at all levels and at all dimensions. And once we are able to conquer ourselves at all levels, then we conquer this reality. This reality is nothing but a reflection of who we are. And if we are able to conquer our own self, we will be able to conquer this reality itself.